How is it going, Bears fans? Welcome back to another episode of the Bear Down Podcast, the show where we talk everything Bears every day of the week. Today, we continue with our Week 1 coverage, taking a look at the Chicago Bears matchup on Sunday Night Football at the Los Angeles Rams. The Bears will head to SoFi Stadium this weekend. Today, as we continue our coverage, we move on to a series that we've done for the last couple of years, 3 key matchups where we look at the 3 most important positional matchups in each game during the regular season. Before I introduce myself and my co-host and we get into this content, I would like to say this is our 3rd day straight with Bears content. We're trying to provide the most comprehensive Bears coverage on the web. That's how we're trying to differentiate ourselves from others this entire regular season. So if you would like to join the ride and haven't already, we love your guys' support. Do us a favor, drop a like, subscribe, follow wherever you are listening, whether that be on YouTube or one of the podcasting platforms. I am your host, Chris Malpe. Today, to continue to dive down the Bears-Rams rabbit hole, we're only 4 days out. I am joined with my co-host, Parth Shaw, yet again. Parth, how's it going, my man?
Doing pretty good. Hopefully my Wi-Fi doesn't cut out, but just chilling. Got some work done.
I might be riding solo soon. I don't know what they're doing down there in Bloomington with the Wi-Fi, but
dude, it's been horrible. But here we are trying to live through it. Even at school and classes at times, they'll be just lagging out and stuff. So I don't know what's going on. Hopefully they can fix their things. But I'm just running on my hotspot, so it should be fine for now.
Oh boy, yeah, we're on some thin ice here. I might be riding solo dolo as we get midway through this. But yeah, feels good to be getting back into the groove of things just in terms of covering a game week. Obviously, it's a lot more fun and also with that a lot more stressful than just making videos throughout the off season. But today we got 3 key matchups in Bears versus Rams. But before we get into that, we have a message from our 2021-2022 season partners, mybookie.ag. So let's take you to that real quick.
Do you guys like easy money? Thanks to MyBookie and their lock of the season, if either team scores in the NFL season opener, you win. If you didn't know, a game hasn't ended with a score 0-0 since World War II, so this is a sure bet. Head over to mybookie.ag, select the lock of the season, and if any team scores between the Dallas Cowboys and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in the Week 1 opener, you win. The best bet you can make is a sure one. MyBookie is also playing host to several exclusive contests, including their $100,000 super contest. It only costs $10 to enter. There's big money on the line this season, so don't wait to get into the game and join now. Head to mybookie.ag today and use our promo code BD and instantly receive double your first deposit. That doubles your funds and doubles your winnings. Again, that is promo code BD to receive double your first deposit and get started with MyBookie today. Thank you so much for sponsoring MyBookie. Bet anything, anytime, and anywhere with MyBookie.
All right, thank you, MyBookie, for sponsoring. Once again, code BD. You can instantly double your funds, double your winnings, bet anywhere, anytime, and anything with MyBookie. Thank you so much for sponsoring today's podcast. Parth, we've got a big one today. 3 key matchups in Bears versus Rams. Obviously, in yesterday's Uncut, I took 2 of the 3 reasons why the Bears, or what the Bears would have to do if they want to make the playoffs. Today, you're going to take 2 of the 3 reasons, or 2 of the 3 positional matchups that are going to be important here in this Week 1 matchup if the Bears want to give themselves a chance to even win this one, because it's going to be a tough matchup regardless. So we're going to start off here. I'm going to hand it over to you. Obviously, Andy Dalton using his tight ends is something we discussed a couple days ago, getting comfortable in the short and intermediate levels of the field. So take it away.
Yeah, you discussed it last time pretty well. Andy Dalton's got to take advantage of those short passes. This Rams secondary is very good. Jaylen Ramsey's a top 5 corner in this league, top 3, if not the best. So, he's going to be guarding Allen Robinson all day. So, Allen Robinson's going to be covered. Last time we played them, Robinson only had 1 catch, 40-something yards. So, Jaylen Ramsey's a shutdown corner. So, you have to expect us to use guys like Cole Kmet, Jimmy Graham, and even Jesse James, who was playing really well in training camp. I expect Cole Kmet to have a pretty big game. I feel like the Bears never used him last year. He was underutilized. He even said it himself, which you don't really hear from players. He said himself that he felt he was underutilized last year. So hopefully Matt Nagy uses him more often, because I feel like with what he's done over the offseason, he put in his time and work. You could see it. He looks massive. The growth, just by how he looks, it's there. So hopefully you can see it translate to the field. And as well with Jimmy Graham, he had 9 touchdowns last year, or was it 8? But, whatever it is, we didn't expect that. So hopefully the Bears are able to get him going right away in the red zone. He's a big red zone threat, and the Bears don't have that many red zone targets. I think Allen Robinson and Jimmy Graham are 2 best red zone targets. So you got to get it to Jimmy Graham, because Jalen Ramsey is someone you don't want to target in the red zone.
Yeah, let's hope the Bears can get in the red zone, much less have to use their tight ends. We're taking it one step at a time here when we play the Rams, because we all know how that 2020 game went. But, I like that you bring up Kmet, because he's someone who we're looking to take, who we hope will take a bigger step in year 2. Obviously, it's Jimmy Graham's last year in Chicago. If we look back to the game last year where the Bears lost 10-24 at SoFi Stadium, the Bears were 5-2 at the time. It was their first away loss on the season, I believe. Cole Kmet had one really big catch for 38 yards. I believe it was on the Bears' first offensive possession of the game, and he absolutely bullied some of the Rams linebackers. Beat them in coverage, and was able to pounce forward and use his strength to gain some more yards. You take a look at who the Rams have in the secondary. I mean, you already hit it on the head. It's going to be a tough day getting the ball to the skilled playmakers on the outside. Darius Williams, Taylor Rapp, Jaylen Ramsey, Jordan Fuller. They lost a couple of pieces this offseason, but it is still a very strong secondary down there that Sean McVay has. So if the Bears want to get Andy Dalton comfortable early in the game, we know how big tight ends are in Matt Nagy's offense. And even though we all want Kmet to have a big game and everyone's rooting for him, you still have to look at the veterans with Jesse James and Jimmy Graham. It's a little bit of a murky spot in terms of how much reps James will get. He's also someone who can be more of a blocking tight end, so I'm not sure we entirely see a ton out of him. But Jimmy Graham's going to be big as well. I mean, he was one of the, top 5 touchdown scorers in terms of tight ends just the season ago. He bounced back really well after having a couple porous seasons in Green Bay. I don't essentially think he should be getting the money that he deserves, but he's a playmaker nonetheless, and you've got to look for him. Nick Foles and Trubisky looked for him a lot last year, and I believe that Andy Dalton's hopefully going to pick up on that, and the Bears will hopefully look to expose the Rams there in that part of the secondary and intermediate level. With the tight ends here on Sunday. That's going to be very important. Moving on to our second point, let's switch sides of the ball to the defense. This is going to be really big if the Bears want to give themselves a shot in this one. I mean, just taking a look at the Rams' depth chart, we know how loaded they are. Matthew Stafford, obviously, the big trade to acquire him, he's there. Robert Woods, Cooper Kupp, Van Jefferson, Tutu Atwell, the third-round pick, I believe, out of Louisville. Deshaun Jackson, someone they brought in this offseason, who still has some speed. I'm a little bit weary on the Bears' secondary, if I'm being honest, and saying I'm a little bit weary is probably a little bit of an understatement as well. So the Bears are going to have to provide some solid pass rush up front if they want to force bad throws by Stafford, to get to the quarterback and get QB hits and QB pressures. They have to make it tough on Stafford if they want to give themselves a chance in this one, because I don't know essentially that this secondary holds up the entire game. I like what they have at safety with Deshaun Gibson and Eddie Jackson. I like their cornerback one with Jaylen Johnson. I think he's only going to continue to grow into a better and better player. But as you move down that depth chart, we're going to have guys like Kendall Vildor, Artie Burns, Duke Shelley out there. And I'm not saying I don't have a vote of confidence in them, but we haven't really seen them play much starting NFL action for a while. It's going to be very fresh in that Bears secondary. The Bears only recorded I believe only one sack against the Rams last year, and that was Khalil Mack. And they also, I believe, had 5 QB hits total, but you have to get home in this game. The Rams have a good offensive line that obviously is highlighted by Brian Allen, Andrew Whitworth, and Rob Havenstein. So you have to get home in this game. You have to put pressure on Stafford if you want to give yourself a chance to win. And not only that, but if you can put pressure on Stafford, maybe you get a couple strip sacks, maybe you force him into some bad throws, force some turnovers. So overall, the pass rush has to be there if the Bears want to win this one. Parth, before we move on to the third point and close this one out, do you have anything to add on this end?
I mean, I'd like to see Robert Quinn get it going.
Yeah, he's the X factor. I mean, I think we said it on Monday's episode too. Him getting pressure is going to be so big. And sorry for interrupting you, but we said we said it yesterday too. I mean, Khalil Mack does so much that doesn't show up on the stat sheet. And actually, I remember looking at some graphics last year. Robert Quinn actually also did a decent bit that didn't show up on the stat sheet. Obviously, had those shin splints last year and other things that were holding him back. And I think the Bears having Andy Goldman back is going to be big as well for shutting down the run and forcing the Rams to quickly advert to the passing game. But Robert Quinn getting in there is going to be important. Bilal Nichols, Akeem Hicks, the whole crew. Everyone's going to have to stand up. If the Bears want to win this one overall, they're going to have a stout defensive performance. But with the playmakers they have up front, I feel like it's got to start there. So let's move on to your – sorry, go for it.
No, you're good. You're good.
Yeah, starting to get a little animate as we get closer to game day. A lot has to happen if the Bears want to win this one. But let's flip it back over to the offensive side of the ball. I mean, it's not going to be an easy day for anyone facing Aaron Donald, and this is going to be a big game for David Montgomery. He's coming off a year where he was top 5 in rushing yards in the league. Obviously, a good running game is a quarterback's best friend. I think that's going to help Andy Dalton open up the play-action pass game, even though I'd rather have Justin Fields in play-action pass because he was incredible in that during the preseason. But we don't have to talk about that. But, Parth, I'm going to pass it back over to you now. How important is it that the Bears get the run game going in this one if they can?
It's very important. Like I've said before, a run game is the quarterback's best friend, and Andy Dalton's definitely going to need that this week. This Rams defense is no easy task. It was ranked number 1 coming to the season. It was ranked number 1 all of last year. They got playmakers on all sides of the ball, on all tiers of the defense. Aaron Donald, Leonard Floyd, Jaylen Ramsey. So, I mean, you got to watch out for these guys. So you got to get the run game going. David Montgomery, he's someone who's had really good games in the past year, past couple seasons. Last time we played the Rams, our leading rusher was Tariq Cohen with 9 carries and 39 yards. Matt Nagy did not use David Montgomery at all from that game because we got down early and then he just decided to pass.
You might be – if I can interrupt for a second, you might be looking at 2 games ago. Either that or I am. Because Dave Montgomery – Cohen was obviously injured last year. We went to the Rams. Montgomery had 14 carries for 48 yards, 3.4 yards per carry. And the Bears only had 49 rushing yards as a unit. So it wasn't a great day on the ground overall.
The last couple of seasons and then all of those games, I think the Bears don't run the ball at all. We end up passing the ball 30 to 40 times with – a guy like Nick Foles or Mitchell Trubisky, which is something I do not want to see with Andy Dalton this weekend. I would rather see David Montgomery run 20 times and churn out some yards because at the end of the day, I think we got to slow the game down. This Rams offense is very high forward. So if we can slow this game down by using David Montgomery to get some first downs and just keep that ball going and have the momentum on our side and gain some time of possession, I think we can win this game. That will also help open up that play action pass like I mentioned earlier. Andy Dalton's going to be relying on that as his defense is no easy, tough task. And if he can rely on those play action passes, it will help the tight ends get open also and then maybe even get some deep separation because Matt Nagy will definitely take a couple shots against the secondary, regardless of who's down there. He always does and always will. So if you can get that run game going, that secondary can definitely help us out and open up some holes. So.
Yeah, I mean, I just think you have to keep the Rams guessing. So having a successful run game is going to be important. As much as I wish that Bill Lazor was calling the plays for Andy Dalton, it's going to be Matt Nagy. Bill Lazor obviously was Dalton's offensive coordinator with the Cincinnati Bengals in 2017 and 18 when they had some pretty good offensive seasons, even though the Bengals were heavily scrutinized back then for getting to the playoffs and then not winning a game. But I think it's important to get the run game going. I mean, obviously the Rams did lose Michael Brockers, someone who is really good in run stopping for them. Leonard Floyd also is back, so that's going to be someone to keep an eye on as well. Obviously Aaron Donald, you'd assume he's going to be probably double teamed up front for a good majority of the game. I think it's important not only for the play action pass, but I also just think it's important because we've seen it a lot when the Bears played the Rams last year, when the Bears played the Rams 2 years ago, and just in a ton of Bears games throughout the last couple of years where the team just becomes way too one-dimensional. Parth, I think you can agree with me on that end. And you mentioned it with guys throwing 30, 40, 50, 60 passes in some games. The Bears have to have a consistent run game, not only this week, but throughout the season. It's going to take Matt Nagy committing to David Montgomery. I think he's a top 10 running back in the league. I expect him to finish with top 10 running back numbers in the league. He's someone who breaks some of the most tackles in the league. He's fast. He continues to lose weight and get more agile. He has good burst. So the Bears can't become one-dimensional in this one, because not only does that not save you time or continue to chip away at time, but the Rams will know what's going, and I think they have one of the better secondaries in the league. I mean, heck, they're the number 1 defense in the league right now coming into the season. So the Bears have to try all they can to keep a two-dimensional offense. I'm not entirely confident that they're going to do that. I mean, you'll see my pick here in a couple of days for this game, but it should be interesting to see if they can get David Montgomery in the run game going, and if Matt Nagy really commits to David Montgomery being that bell cow back. It's also interesting to note that Damian Williams is in town, and Khalil Herbert looks good as well, because Williams is someone who has some pretty good experience and could help out there off the bench. Hopefully the Bears will be able to get the run game going in this one as well as how the 2020 season ended. If we go back to how that regular season ended, we had a stretch of 5 or 6 really good games where the running attack was actually consistently there and it looked good, and overall just made the offense flow better. So should be interesting to see how that pans out. Guys, before you go, if you are watching on YouTube right now, drop down in the comments, let us know any other positional matchups that you think are important that the Bears have to take advantage of if they want to give themselves a shot to win this week 1 matchup against the Rams. But thank you guys so much for tuning into this episode of 3 Key Matchups. If you haven't already, do us a favor, drop a like, subscribe if you're listening on YouTube. If you're listening on the podcasting platforms, Apple Podcasts and Spotify, do us a favor, drop a follow. We're going to be bringing you guys the most comprehensive Bears coverage on the web all off season, or all regular season. This feels so weird, man. If you want more content from us, head over to our
regular season. So obviously, I mean, tomorrow we got kickoff. It's gonna be a fun day. I can't wait. And then on Sunday the Bears play. So couldn't have asked for a better weekend. But let's go Bears.
Yeah, absolutely. But hit the link in the top of the description if you want more content from us. That'll take you to our website, beardown.com. We're posting columns, articles, and blogs to get you guys ready for the week 1 matchup with the Rams. If you'd like to enter giveaways that we do, we've got a Justin Fields giveaway probably coming very soon here in the month of September. We've got that coming if you want to see sneak peeks of guests we're having on. And also let us know what you want to see on the show and just keep up to date with what we're doing. You can find us on Instagram and Twitter, the podcast itself, at Bear Down. And finally, you can find the links to all of our social media pages down in the description, myself as well as Parth, our Instagram and Twitter pages. It's another great way to interact with us. We have pretty large followings on both platforms, and you can see our thoughts on all things Bears, the National Football League, and the entirety of Chicago sports. Should be very fun tweeting out on a nonchalant Sunday afternoon about the Bears, or about the other NFL teams before the Bears play, just chilling around watching Red Zone. But yeah, Parshaw, man, 3 days in a row. I don't know. It also just feels weird without Jaylen because he's in school. But any last words before we sign off here?
No, I mean, nothing really. I'm just excited for the football season. The White Sox just got to 80 games. I think the Cubs just got their 7-game streak snapped. So, I can't
complain about that, but at the same time I can, because it's like, why are you ruining the draft pick?
It's fine. The MLB, there's just so many good players. So
I mean, hey, if you want me to clap back at you, Iowa's a top 10 football school in the country, and Indiana's out of the rankings. So, well, that'll pretty much.
Wait, what do you guys rank that?
We're 10, and we play number 9 Iowa State this week on College Game Day, so it should be an interesting one.
That's a really good game.
The battle for the Cy-Hawk State should be interesting. There's just, as we continue to inch forward towards the Bears, I mean, there's just so much to look forward to.
Football,
and especially, I think my favorite part of the NFL season, or just sports in general, is when they all click at once, like when we have the NBA and NHL back, and the MLB's in the playoffs, and the NFL's going on, and college football's still going on. So, as we continue to head down the stretch towards 2022, there is a lot to look forward to, and we're getting so close to Bears football. Guys, thank you so much for tuning in once again. It's been a pleasure to be your host. My name is Chris Maltby, and Bears fans, as always, do us a favor and stay safe and bear down. We'll see you in the next one. Peace out.